You insist on looking into the mirror of life and asking why nothing changes, but still refuse to change the expression you carry within. That's what we're talking about today. The mirror principle isn't a pretty phrase to hang on the wall. It's a relentless law. Everything you see on the outside is merely a reflection of the state you maintain within. Reality is not the cause, it is the effect. The cause is always what you silently accept as true when no one is watching, when the masks fall, and all that's left is what you truly believe yourself to be. As long as you try to pull the mirror this way, push it that way, clean the mirror, complain about the mirror, curse the mirror, you will remain enslaved by the images you see. Only when you understand that the mirror has no will of its own, that it is merely a reflection, will you assume the only position worthy of one who awakens. That of someone who changes their face, not the glass. Someone who changes their state, not the scenery. Someone who alters the origin, not the effect. The first mirror principle is simple, yet few have the courage to live by it. Life doesn't show you what you desire, it shows you what you accept yourself to be. Desire is weak compared to identity. You can desire prosperity all night long and spend the entire day feeling small, unworthy, guilty, mentally indebted. The mirror doesn't respond to your desire, it responds to your state. It doesn't return what you beg for, it returns what you embody. That's why some people, even without being able to explain theories, seem to be lucky. They naturally perceive themselves as someone who deserves the best. It's not arrogance, it's an internal normalcy. For them, receiving good opportunities is as natural as breathing. Others, however, even while studying, consuming content, and repeating pretty phrases, remain in the same place because deep down, they see themselves as someone who always gets left behind, goes wrong, or arrives late in line. The universe doesn't argue with you, it doesn't debate, it merely mirrors. Observe your own life honestly for a moment. Do you repeat the same stories, different relationships but the same feeling of abandonment, different jobs but the same feeling of being undervalued? The settings change, the faces change, but the underlying feeling is identical. That's not bad luck. It's the mirror functioning with precision. The scenery changes clothes, but the plot remains the same because the protagonist continues to carry the same belief about themselves. As long as you look outside and think, "This is happening to me again," without realizing it's me again maintaining the same state, you will remain a prisoner of the reflection. Life is screaming. Stop chasing new images with the same old character. It's not the movie that needs to change. It's the role you accept to play. When you understand this first principle, complaining loses its meaning. Complaining about how the world is as ridiculous as arguing with the mirror, because it's showing a tired expression on your face. You can break all the mirrors in the house, your face will remain the same. That's what many do. They change cities, change partners, change jobs, change social circles, but they carry the same emotional frequency with them. It's like changing the frame and keeping the same photograph. What you haven't understood yet is that the world reacts to how you settle internally. If you live in the state of always being on the verge of failure, you will walk through the world, stumbling upon confirmations of that failure. If you live in the state of being capable, worthy, and under construction, you will walk through the world finding bricks, doors, and tools for that construction. The first mirror principle, then, is this: take radical responsibility for the reflection. Don't confuse that with guilt. Guilt is stagnation. Responsibility is power. Guilt says, "It happened because of me, therefore I am condemned." Responsibility says, "It happened from the state I maintained, therefore I can choose another now." When something in your life hurts, instead of shouting, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What state of mine is this mirroring?" Perhaps it's the state of, "I'm not a priority, I'm not heard, I'm not capable, I'm not enough." Don't fight the mirror, recognize the pattern. Not to punish yourself, but to take command. The mirror doesn't control you, it merely reveals what you have accepted as yourself. Before we move on to the second principle, understand this: you don't have to navigate this process blindly, trying to put the pieces together on your own. There are practical ways to train your mind for this new positioning, to transform your inner mirror with deliberate, repeated emotional images that reprogram what you accept yourself to be. In the link in the pinned comment, you'll find materials specifically designed for this, a practical guide to visualization and internal alignment, with simple and applicable exercises that help you use imagination as a conscious tool instead of letting old patterns drive your day. It shows step by step how to choose clear scenes, engage emotion, create a daily routine, and align thoughts, emotions, and actions with the state you want to embody, so that reality begins to consistently mirror this new identity. It's not about empty magic, but about repeated mental training until the new becomes natural. If you feel ready to go beyond words and put all of this into practice, use this material to your advantage, both while we hear this discourse and afterward, as a continuation of the work we've started here. The second mirror principle is that life never responds to what you pretend. It responds to what you repeat. You can pose as confident in public, but if every night you mentally review scenes where you were rejected, humiliated, forgotten, that's what's feeding the mirror, not the mask you wear in front of others. Repetition is how you train the reflection. What you repeat in your mind, life repeats in your reality. Some people live reviewing the past as if they were watching the same episode of an old series, daily, for years. They lie in bed, and instead of using their imagination to rehearse the future they desire, they hit repeat on episodes of pain, failure, and shame. And then they're surprised when they attract very similar situations again. They don't realize they've turned their mind into an automatic player of old chapters, and the obedient mirror continues to reflect what is played within. You need to decide what you're going to leave on loop. There's no point in listening to this discourse, getting emotional for a few minutes, and then mechanically returning to the same old scenes. The mirror isn't affected by isolated moments of enthusiasm. It's shaped by what you feed it most. Ask yourself, when I'm alone, when nothing distracts me, what images occupy my mind? Do I see myself being rejected? Do I see myself failing? Do I see myself almost succeeding? Or do I see myself crossing the finish line? Don't lie to yourself. You can fool anyone with photos, speeches, and postures, but the mirror responds only to what you secretly consider normal for yourself. It's this normalcy that you repeat daily, even if you don't even realize it. Repetition happens not only in images, but also in the stories you tell about yourself. Every time you say, "I've always been this way," that never works out for me. Everything is difficult in my family. I have bad luck in love. You are reinforcing the script that the mirror will stage again. You're not venting. You're reaffirming the contract. The sound of these phrases doesn't vanish into thin air. It returns to you in the form of situations consistent with what was said. If you want a new reflection, stop telling old stories as if they were a sentence. Replace "I've always been this way" with "I've always been this way until now." Replace "I never succeeded" with "I never succeeded because I was feeding the wrong state, and now I choose another." With each repetition, you shift your identity a few millimeters out of the old chains, until one day looking back and recognizing yourself in the old version seems almost impossible. The third mirror principle is that life speaks to you through symbols and patterns, not through clear phrases. One who lives awake is not offended by events. They interpret them. One who lives asleep reacts, complains, and misses the message. Every recurring situation is trying to show you the state you are maintaining. For example, the person who always attracts friends who use them isn't cursed. They simply carry, without realizing it, the state of someone who needs to prove their worth by serving too much, yielding too much, diminishing themselves too much. The mirror then returns perfect circumstances for this script to be enacted. People who ask a lot, give back little, and disappear when it's no longer convenient. Life isn't against them. Life is persistently showing them what they've accepted themselves to be, until they understand the symbol and change their state. You need to learn to look at circumstances as if they were dreams full of codes. In a dream, you don't interpret everything literally, you search for the meaning. Do the same here. If money comes and goes with the same ease, don't just see numbers, see the pattern. Perhaps you hold the state of someone who believes they can't relax, don't deserve stability, or don't know how to handle abundance. If every time you get close to something good you self-sabotage, perhaps you're carrying the state of someone who feels more comfortable with the problem than with the solution, because that's where you learn to exist. Don't accuse yourself for it, just recognize it. Where there is repetition, there is a state asking to be seen. Instead of asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" ask, "Who am I being internally for this to make sense in my story?" The answer, if honest, will be the key to real change. The fourth mirror principle is that you don't change reality by fighting what you see, but by internally assuming the state corresponding to what you want to see. Reality isn't overcome by force, it's overcome by frequency. You can spend years trying to push circumstances to where you want them to be. You can expend energy trying to control every person, every detail, every reaction. In the end, you'll be exhausted and surrounded by fragile results that collapse with any breath. Changing the scenery without changing your state is like painting a cracked wall. For a few days it looks new, but sooner or later the cracks reappear. True transformation begins when you stop negotiating with the mirror and start training your vibration to match what you wish to experience. This means living as if it already is, not as cheap theatre for others to see, but as a silent conviction, felt in the body. The state of a prosperous person, for example, isn't just about having money. It's about relating to life from a place of internal security. Even before seeing numbers change, this person walks differently, makes decisions differently, chooses words differently. They don't carry despair in every step, because internally they've already made peace with the idea that they are capable of creating, receiving, and sustaining abundance. This attitude, maintained and nurtured, eventually finds circumstances in the mirror that confirm what they have already accepted themselves to be. The same applies to love, health, and opportunities. Before asking, "May this come to me?" ask, "How does this feel within me?" And start vibrating from that place, even if the external reality is still lagging. You don't need external proof to start moving from the new state. It's the external proof that needs you to exist. As long as you make the world the judge of your identity, your life will be a sequence of ups and downs, guided by others' opinions, temporary results, and unstable approvals. When you reverse the order and start using your interior as a reference, something admirable happens. Even negatives, closed doors, and delays cease to be threats and become mere course adjustments. Someone who has already decided internally who they are and what they are building doesn't despair when faced with a no. They know that the mirror was only showing something that didn't yet align with their new state, so they simply continue, maintaining the frequency until they find the corresponding reflection. The fifth mirror principle is discipline, not rigid mechanical discipline that turns life into a barracks, but discipline of state, the decision to no longer abandon yourself when reality challenges you. Because it's easy to feel confident when everything is going well. Anyone can do that. The real training begins when you decide to protect the new state even when the mirror is still lagging. Imagine someone who is losing weight. For weeks, she changes her diet, exercises, drinks water, but the scale doesn't seem to budge. At that moment, she has two options. Believe the mirror and say, "It's no use, it's different for me," or believe in the state she began to build and continue, understanding that the reflection has a delay, a lag time. Most people give up precisely then, because they trust the number more than the new habit. The mirror hasn't had time to update the image, but she has already surrendered to the old script. In your inner life, the same thing happens. You start to see yourself as capable, worthy, deserving. You start behaving from that place, making more aligned choices, saying no more often to what violates this new pattern. Initially, the world responds as it always has, because the reflection is still old. People still test your limits. Old opportunities still appear. Old problems still try to repeat themselves. It's at this moment that you need discipline of state, to breathe and say internally, "This is just the echo of what I was, not a description of who I am now," and remain. Don't give in to the impulse to rush back to the old pattern just because it's familiar. Familiar isn't synonymous with true, it's just synonymous with repeated. Discipline here means consciously choosing which scenes you will feed before sleeping, which phrases you will allow to leave your mouth, which emotions you will cultivate until they become your new normal. Don't wait to feel like doing it. Willpower is volatile. Commitment is stable. Use imagination as if it were a daily workout, a few minutes a day, aligning images, sensations, and words with the state you've decided to embody. Use daily situations as reminders. Whenever something tries to pull you down, ask, "What version of me is this situation inviting to emerge? And what version of me do I choose to manifest now?" Gradually, the inner muscle strengthens. The old vibration starts to become too weak to sustain itself. The mirror then begins to show with a delay what you have already been living internally for some time. Notice that in all these principles, the message is the same, repeated from different angles. Stop begging for the mirror to change first. Stop asking for the reflection to smile while you refuse to relax your face. Stop negotiating with circumstances as if they have the power to define who you are. Life doesn't change because you beg. It changes because you change your internal position. When you let go of the role of victim of images and assume the role of the image's origin, the entire game changes. You start choosing thoughts like someone choosing clothes, emotions like someone choosing a soundtrack, internal images like someone choosing a movie they want to watch. And over time, that old world that seemed so solid reveals itself for what it always was, a mirror obedient to the script you were running without realizing it. From now on, I don't want you to merely understand this intellectually. Understanding doesn't change the mirror. What changes the mirror is what you do with that understanding. Take one aspect of your life that bothers you most today, not all at once, just one. Look at it as a reflection. Ask yourself what state it is revealing. Perhaps it's the state of scarcity, unworthiness, fear of being alone, or needing to prove something to everyone all the time. Name that state. Then deliberately choose the opposite you wish to embody. If today you live in the state of "I'm not a priority," choose the state of "My energy is valuable and I treat myself as a priority." Start thinking, feeling, and acting from this new place, even if no one on the outside recognizes it yet. Remember, the mirror lags. You are training the cause, not caressing the effect. Use everything at your disposal to sustain this. Use your breath, mental images, the words you repeat, the decisions you make. And if you want more structured support, remember what I mentioned before. The material in the pinned comment link was created precisely to guide you through this process in an organized way, showing you how to use visualization, writing, and daily attention to install new images in your mind, replace old patterns, and align your actions with the state you've chosen to live. It won't do the work for you, but it will provide clear tools so you stop fumbling in the dark and turn the mirror principle into daily practice until looking around and seeing a different reality is no longer a surprise, but a consequence. So, this is the final call. Stop begging for blessings from the mirror of reality. Stop supplicating for the world to be kind while you continue mistreating yourself internally. Stop asking for external signs only then to believe in something new internally. Reverse it. From today, decide that your interior is the command and the exterior is the obedience. Decide that you will no longer bow to the old images. They will have to bow to the new identity you have chosen to embody. Walk through the coming days like someone carrying a silent secret. The reflection doesn't know yet, but I have already changed. When doubt comes, when reality tries to pull you back to the old place, repeat to yourself firmly, "If I don't change, nothing changes, but I have already changed, so the world will have to follow suit," and maintain that state as a non-negotiable commitment to yourself. If you feel ready to turn this understanding into a habit, don't put it off. Use what's available to support your internal discipline. In the pinned comment, you have access to material made for this. To teach, with exercises, examples, and simple routines, how to train your mind, align your energy, and live day after day as someone who has truly understood the mirror principle and decided once and for all to take command of their own reality. The rest is a matter of time. The mirror has no choice. When you change, sooner or later, it will be obliged to show the new face you have decided to be. Nothing happens by chance, not even this moment. While many believe they stumble upon life's signs, the wise understand that every word, every encounter, every video that appears before their eyes is an answer, not a random invitation. If this video appeared for you, it's because something within you called it forth. It wasn't the algorithm. It was the vibration you are emitting. There is a silent movement happening within your consciousness, an invisible preparation for the invisible to become palpable. And this is the exact point where money, prosperity, and abundance begin to manifest, not externally but internally. You are about to remember something you have forgotten. The world has trained you to believe that money comes from effort, connections, luck. But money doesn't come from outside. It is attracted by the frequency you hold within. Everything you call financial reality is just a portrait of the mental state you have inhabited. As long as you see money as something distant, it remains absent. But the moment you recognize yourself as the creative source, the flow begins to move towards you, and there is no human power that can stop it. This video is not a promise, it is a mirror. It appears before you to remind you who you are, because for a long time you forgot that you are the heir to limitless power, capable of commanding the world to bend to your conviction. The entire universe responds to your inner state, and the sign that money is coming is not your bank statement. It is this awakening now happening within you. You did not come here to ask, you came to assume. The true creator does not beg for miracles, they command them. They do not wait for something to change, they change what they hold internally, and the world follows. Therefore, if you are hearing these words, understand you did not find this video. It found you, because the money you desire, the flow you lack, has already begun to move towards you. And all the universe awaits is for you to recognize the call has arrived and the moment is now. Money is not attracted by those who desire it, but by those who assume it. To desire is to declare absence. It is to tell the universe, I don't have it yet. To assume is to affirm presence. This is already mine. And this difference, though subtle to the logical mind, is abysmal for the creative consciousness. When you desire, you are vibrating in lack. When you assume, you are vibrating in possession. The world does not respond to your words, but to the internal state you silently hold. That is why so many pray and few receive, because their words ask, but their emotions deny. They hold the desire but live in scarcity. Everything begins when a person understands that money is not an external force, but an expression of their own consciousness. It is not work that creates wealth, it is the inner state that work reflects. A poor person can work tirelessly and remain with nothing, because their mind is still programmed for survival, not for abundance. But when they change what they believe themselves to be, the same work, the same talent, the same amount of time begin to yield previously unthinkable fruits. The cause was never in the conditions, but in the identity. The one who keeps saying, I need money, is perpetuating the cycle of need. They are continually creating more situations that make them need. The universe is a perfect mirror. It does not distinguish plea from certainty. It merely reflects the state you hold. That is why true change does not occur when you get something, but when you stop seeing yourself as someone who doesn't have. Money begins to approach when you stop seeking it and start to be the one who already possesses it. This is the law the world ignores. The invisible precedes the visible. Nothing appears in the material world without first having been assumed within consciousness. The common person thinks money brings security. The awakened one knows it is inner security that brings money. When you begin to feel prosperous, even without external evidence, something changes in the vibration. It is as if an old frequency dissolves and a new harmony begins to command circumstances. People, opportunities and ideas begin to emerge as if the universe were conspiring, but it doesn't conspire, it simply obeys. The first step, therefore, is not to chase money, but to change who you are in relation to it. The mind must move before matter bends. Close your eyes and affirm with silent conviction, I am manifested prosperity. Money serves me, and I do not serve it. Feel the weight of this truth within your chest. Walk, speak, and think from this state as one who has already received. And then you will observe the inevitable. The outer world will begin to translate your new belief into facts, because nothing resists a consciousness that assumes command. Remember, to desire is to beg, to assume is to command. Money does not come to those who ask, it comes to those who are. And at this very moment, as you hear these words, you are being invited to shed the identity of lack and don the identity of abundance. The universe is listening to your state, not your words. Decide now what you want it to echo, and it will do so faithfully, as it always has. The world around you is merely a mirror of what dwells in your mind. Nothing you see originates outside of you. Everything that happens to you is a response, a reflection, a consequence of an inner state you chose, consciously or not. Money, scarcity, opportunities, or the lack thereof are merely material translations of a belief that silently rests within your being. As long as you try to change the reflection without changing the original image, you will be fighting against the wind. You can work harder, study more, exert more effort, but the reflection will remain the same until you change what you project into the mirror of life. The slumbering person blames the world for their condition, while the awakened one observes it as if reading a book they themselves wrote. When you understand that nothing out there has independent power, fear loses its grip. Your boss, the government, the market, all become characters acting according to the script your consciousness holds. If you believe in lack, they become instruments of loss. If you believe in abundance, they become channels of provision. It is always your belief that commands the scene, and the world obediently merely plays the role assigned to it. The human mind has grown accustomed to reacting to the visible, forgetting that the visible is merely condensed past. Everything you perceive today is the result of a previous state. If you live complaining about what you have, you are perpetuating the old cycle. But if you dare to give thanks and affirm the new image, the reflection begins to change. Slowly at first, until the old completely dissolves. Just as the mirror cannot show you smiling while you cried, the world cannot show abundance while your consciousness holds scarcity. The secret lies in reversing your gaze. Do not ask, why is the world like this, but what in me is projecting it? The answer will not come as guilt, but as liberation, because the moment you assume yourself to be the creator of the reflection, you gain the power to change it. The poor person who sees themselves as a victim of fate remains a prisoner of the old image. The one who awakens and sees themselves as the source begins to mold the mirror to their will. Reality is not solid. It is malleable like clay before the potter, and you are the potter. Therefore, if there is scarcity around you, do not fight against it. Recognize it as a reflection of what you have held and change what you carry within. The mind that purifies itself of complaint and takes command transforms everything around it. In silence, change the image. And when the reflection finally adjusts, you will perceive the power that has always been with you, the power to command the mirror of life, to faithfully reveal the new image of your consciousness. The common mind gives up when it sees no results, but the conscious creator understands that time is not an enemy. It is merely the necessary interval for the invisible to become visible. Inner persistence is the true test of faith. Not the faith that asks for signs, but the one that remains firm when everything seems otherwise, because the world is slow to react, but it always reacts. With every thought of doubt, with every moment you yield to appearance, you interrupt the process that was already underway. But when you remain firm even without evidence, you are telling the universe, I know who I am and nothing can convince me otherwise. This is the language the invisible understands. Holding the desired state is like keeping a flame lit in the wind. It requires vigilance, attention, and constancy. In the beginning, everything within you will try to sabotage the new state. The old mind will whisper, nothing has changed, look around you. And if you believe it, you return to the old cycle. But if you hold firm and reply in silence, this is already mine, you will be educating the invisible. The universe does not bow to haste, it bows to conviction. Many think faith is emotion. It is not. Faith is inner stability. It is not being moved by appearances. When the world shows absence, faith smiles and says, I have already received. When the balance is low, faith responds, the money is coming. When doors seem closed, faith walks as if they were already open. It is this silent certainty that moves mountains, that transforms the invisible into matter, that makes inevitable what has already been assumed. The secret is not to fight against what you see, but to refuse to give reality to what contradicts your inner vision. You may be surrounded by evidence of scarcity, but if your consciousness is fixed on abundance, the world will sooner or later bow. Life has no choice but to obey the mind that knows what it is. It is at this point that many give up, for they confuse delay with denial. But delay is merely the reflection still adjusting to the new image. Remain in the desired state until it becomes natural. Do not treat it as an exercise, but as an identity. The one who tries to maintain a state still sees themselves as separate from it. The one who embodies it no longer needs to try. They are. And when the being consolidates, the world has no power whatsoever to resist. Everything that was an obstacle dissolves. Everything that was a delay accelerates. Because the universe is faithful to the command of consciousness. Thus, learn the art of inner persistence. Learn to remain firm when nothing seems to work. Learn to walk with the certainty of one who has already arrived, even when you are still on the way. Because the one who perseveres is not tested by time, they are shaped by eternity. And when the reflection finally bows, the Creator smiles, not in surprise, but in recognition. They always knew it would be this way. The limited person seeks to control the path. They want to understand how, when, and through whom money will arrive. And it is precisely in this desire for control that they block the flow. The universe does not need your logic, it needs your trust. When you cling to the form, you impede the power from acting. But when you let go, the invisible begins to move pieces that your mind could never align. Divine providence is not revealed to curiosity, but to surrender. Understand that the how is God's domain. Your role is simply to define the state and remain in it with unwavering faith. As long as you ask, how will this happen? You are confessing doubt. But when you say, this has already happened within me, you open the doors for the universe to surprise you. It is at this moment that coincidences begin to multiply. People appear, opportunities reveal themselves, ideas emerge from nowhere. The invisible is not silence, it is movement. However, this movement is invisible until you allow it to manifest. The mind that trusts rests, and rest is not passivity, it is mastery. It is knowing that there is a higher order guiding every detail. When you worry, you interrupt the flow. When you trust, it accelerates. It is like a river. Try to hold it back and the water becomes turbulent. Allow it to run, and it flows naturally to its destination. So it is with money, with love, with any manifestation. Everything you resist moves away, everything you release returns multiplied. The secret lies in acting as one who already possesses. The person who lives in a state of abundance does not despair, does not force, does not demand. They know that the invisible has already answered their request the moment they assumed it. They walk with lightness, speak with confidence, and observe events as confirmations, not as tests. Every sign, however small, is an echo of what has already been decreed internally. Free yourself from the anxiety of understanding. Intellect is blind before the wisdom of the Spirit. Do not try to decipher the process. Trust it. There is an intelligence that guides you through perfect paths, even when they seem strange or contrary to your expectation. Sometimes, a door that closes is just the necessary detour for greater abundance. Learn to see every apparent obstacle as part of the invisible order working in your favor. The how is not your concern, it is the property of the law. And this law is exact, precise, infallible. The moment you assume the state of possession, the universe begins to reorganize around your new vibration. And there is no force that can prevent what has already been accepted in consciousness. Therefore, rest. Release fear. Let the invisible run its course. Because the path you cannot see is often the shortest to the miracle. Gratitude is the seal of fulfilled manifestation. It is not just a gesture of spiritual courtesy, it is the silent recognition that the invisible has already become real. When you give thanks for something you do not yet see, you are declaring to the universe, I have already received. And the universe, obedient to the vibration of your state, hurries to confirm what has been accepted. Gratitude is not a fleeting emotion, it is a posture of consciousness. It is the vibration of one who knows that everything has already been provided, even if the external world is still adjusting. Most people wait for something good to happen before giving thanks. But the true Creator does the opposite. They give thanks beforehand. They understand that the feeling of possession precedes physical possession. This is how the invisible condenses into matter. Gratitude is the language of the invisible realm, the sound the universe understands as a command. Every time you say thank you with conviction and serenity, you are affirming your union with the source. And this union dissolves all resistance, opening the way for financial, emotional, and spiritual flow to manifest in fullness. Give thanks not for what you expect, but for what already is. Give thanks for the house you don't yet have, as one who already lives in it. Give thanks for the money you don't yet see, as one who already feels it in their hands. Give thanks for tranquility, even when the world seems to crumble. Because true gratitude does not depend on circumstances, it creates them. It is faith clothed in emotion. It is the silent testimony that your consciousness has taken command. When you give thanks, you no longer need to ask. The request is the voice of lack. Thanksgiving is the voice of fulfillment. The universe listens to both and responds faithfully to each. Therefore, when you pray in despair, it echoes more despair. When you give thanks in certainty, it echoes abundance. There is no mystery, there is only response. Gratitude also purifies the heart of doubt and fear. You cannot feel gratitude and lack at the same time. One eliminates the other. When you begin to give thanks constantly, the mind starts to align with the state of one who already possesses. And in this alignment, external reality is compelled to transform. Paths open, the right people appear, opportunities multiply. Not because something new has emerged, but because your vibration has finally become compatible with what has always existed. Therefore, live in anticipatory gratitude. Speak in gratitude, think in gratitude, breathe gratitude. Wake up and give thanks, even without apparent reason. Sleep and give thanks, as one who celebrates a promise already fulfilled. And, in doing so, you will perceive something subtle and powerful. The world will begin to adjust to your new frequency. Money will flow, doors will open, and everything that once seemed distant will become inevitable. Because the one who gives thanks before seeing manifests before everyone else. Now you know what brought you here. This video is not a coincidence, it is a call. Every word was prepared to reach the exact point where your consciousness is ready to remember who you are. Everything you desired, everything you hoped for, everything you sought outside already exists within you. Money, prosperity, opportunities, none of this is coming from outside. They are emerging from the vibration you are now choosing to sustain. You were not created to beg for abundance, but to command it. And to command it is not to shout at the universe. It is to quiet yourself within and affirm with certainty, I am. When this I am becomes your dwelling, the world bows before your authority. Life begins to reorganize, doors open effortlessly, and the impossible becomes natural. Everything that once seemed distant begins to come to you with ease, as if it had always been there, waiting for you to recognize it. From now on, stop asking, stop waiting, assume it. Live as one who already possesses, feel as one who has already received, speak as one who has already won. The universe has no choice but to confirm your conviction. Reality is not a wall, it is a mirror, and it reflects exactly what you carry within. If you want to see abundance, be abundance. If you want to see movement, be movement. If you want to see miracles, be faith. Arise, child of light, and remember, you lack nothing. Everything you need is already vibrating within you, awaiting only your permission to reveal itself. Money is coming not as a promise, but as a natural consequence of the state you now choose to inhabit. Hold it with calm, with gratitude, and with certainty, because the entire universe listens to the one who assumes, and when you assume, the invisible bows. Everything already is, and everything belongs to you. Close your eyes, breathe deeply. What you call reality is not an unbreakable wall. It's a projection, a shadow molded by what you feel to be true about yourself. Nothing that happens around you is by chance. Everything is a response. Life is the echo of what you affirm, consciously or unconsciously, in the silence of your heart. Most people live like sleepwalkers, believing the world is something separate from them, fighting against circumstances they themselves sustain with fear, doubt, and attachment. But there are few, very few, who understand that reality is malleable, alive, and obeys the inner command of feeling. This command is not made of complicated words, but of pure vibration. That is why I, Abdullah, speak to you today about the divine mantra, a single phrase capable of reordering the world around you in minutes, if pronounced with conscious faith. It is not superstition, it is not religion, it is not magic in the common sense. It is spiritual science, the power of sustained imagination, which transmutes thought into form, invisible into visible, idea into substance. When Neville came to me, confused and full of desires, I did not give him external instructions. I gave him an inner posture. I taught him to live as one who already possesses what they desire, not as one who waits to receive. Because the universe does not respond to words, but to states of consciousness. If you feel poor, the world shows you poverty. If you feel sick, the body obeys. If you feel whole, the world bends in harmony. It all comes down to this: reality is a mirror of your inner state. The divine mantra is a reminder that there is no separation between the Creator and the creation. When you pronounce it with conviction, the sound vibrates beyond time and touches the substance of life. For 10 seconds, you abandon the role of petitioner and return to the throne of command. For 10 seconds, you remember that the force that moves the sun and the stars is the same force that pulses within you. And when that remembrance ignites, matter responds instantly. Today, you will learn not just to repeat words, but to command realities. This is the secret. The power is not in the phrase, it is in the consciousness that sustains it. If you dare to say the mantra as one who already lives the result, the world will reorganize before your eyes. Because one who assumes the state of fulfillment does not need to wait. They simply declare, "It is done now." The first principle is to understand that the Creator does not ask, they declare. That is the difference between the common person and the awakened person. The common person supplicates, prays for help, implores for signs, and lives believing that strength is outside of them. The awakened person, however, speaks with silent authority, because they know that power moves from within to without. When you ask, you are affirming that you do not yet have. When you declare, you are recognizing that you already possess. The universe responds not to the sound of words, but to the frequency of the feeling that sustains them. A request is a vibration of lack. A declaration is a vibration of possession. And life always mirrors what is felt as true. That is why so many pray and few manifest, because most pray as beggars, not as heirs. You were created in the image and likeness of the Creator, not to ask permission, but to give form to the invisible. When you say, "It is done now," you are not trying to convince the world. You are simply remembering the eternal truth. Everything already exists in potential within you. What is called a miracle is merely the materialization of that which has been inwardly accepted as already completed. Declaration is an act of recognition, not of conquest. It is like turning on a light in a dark room. The light always existed but needed to be called into manifestation. So too it is with your blessings. When you speak with conviction, the invisible awakens and takes form. Saying, "It is done now," is like flipping the switch of reality. It is a silent command to divine substance to organize itself according to your vision. One who declares is not in a hurry because they already live in certainty. They do not watch the clock or external signs, they remain firm in the assumed state. And it is precisely this emotional stability that makes the world yield. The universe bows before one who does not doubt. That is why faith is not hope, it is anticipated possession. To wait is to confess absence, to believe is to affirm presence. When you declare, time ceases to exist because the mind is anchored in the eternal now. Observe the great masters, prophets and sages. None of them asked. They pronounced the word, and it was done. Rise up. See. Walk. Open up. Simple, direct commands, laden with certainty. There was no room for if, nor for when. The creative force flows only through the mind that recognizes its own authority. When you understand this, you will stop supplicating to heaven and begin to command the earth. To say the mantra is therefore to declare sovereignty. For 10 seconds, speak as one who awakens the universe itself. Do not wait to feel something. Speak until you feel it. Declare until the vibration of doubt is replaced by certainty. In that instant, something invisible moves. Circumstances begin to reorganize, people are touched, doors open, the path unfolds. Because the visible world is merely the servant of the inner state, and one who declares with true faith never speaks in vain. The second principle is to understand that the power of the mantra is not in the words, but in the emotion that accompanies them. Words are just the shell. Feeling is the seed. It is feeling that plants reality in the invisible field of the mind. 10 seconds of pure emotion are worth more than 1,000 mechanical repetitions. You can say the phrase all day, but if the heart is empty, nothing will move. The universe does not respond to the mouth, it responds to the heart. When you say it is done now, you must feel that the entire universe hears you. Imagine that the sound emanates from within your chest and vibrates in all directions, like a silent command that traverses time and space. Divine energy does not recognize lifeless words. It moves only when there is fire in the feeling. It is this fire that distinguishes faith from hope. Hope is weak, it is expectation. Faith is vibration, it already tastes victory before it happens. Observe how the body reacts when you truly believe. The heart quickens, the air changes its weight, something within you expands. This is the sign that the command has been accepted by the deep consciousness. It is in that instant that the invisible begins to reorganize itself. Therefore, when I tell you, say it for 10 seconds, it is not a magic number, it is a symbolic measure. 10 seconds of total surrender are enough to change the vibration of an entire destiny. But purity of focus is required. Do not mix doubt with power. If the mind says, "What if it doesn't happen?" do not argue with it, simply return to the feeling of certainty. The secret is simple: feel first, see later. Emotion is the mold, reality is the mirror. When you feel as if you have already received, the universe has no choice but to deliver the corresponding form to you. Remember, you are not trying to force the world, you are simply aligning yourself with what is already true. What is felt as real within becomes visible without. That is why many fail, because they speak with their lips, but their heart remains full of fear. Doubt is the language of separation. The emotion of certainty is the language of creation. When repeating the mantra, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and feel the warmth of the divine presence within you. See in the invisible the result already fulfilled. Feel the peace of one who has arrived, the gratitude of one who already possesses, the relief of one who no longer needs to wait. It is this vibration that creates. The phrase merely awakens it. The mantra is the trigger, but the feeling is the engine. And when both unite, word and emotion, the impossible bends. Because life always responds to the intensity of what you feel, not to what you say. The third principle is to understand that everything happens now. Time is merely a contrivance of the human mind, an illusion created to measure the movement of things. Divine consciousness, which is the true power dwelling within you, knows neither past nor future. It lives in an eternal present. When you say one day, you push the miracle away. But when you declare it is done now, you dissolve the distance between desire and manifestation. Reality responds to the instant you assume the state of fulfillment. The common mind believes that one must wait for signs, that things take time, that there are stages and linear paths. But the awakened mind understands that time is merely a perception and that the now contains all possibilities. When you assume a feeling as true in this moment, the universe already begins to reorder everything to correspond to that new state. The delay is not in the world, it is in consciousness. It is thought that postpones, fear that blocks, doubt that creates intervals between what is and what could be. Therefore, when using the mantra, do not say it as one who plants something that will sprout tomorrow. Say it as one who opens a window and lets the light in. You do not create the sun, you merely remove the curtains. The now is that open window. Everything you desire already exists in potential and is waiting only for your acceptance. When the feeling of "it already is" settles in, the entire universe bows to confirm your truth. Every time you think of tomorrow, you are confessing that you do not yet have today, and that thought keeps you trapped in the same state. The key is to inhabit the result now. Speak, feel, and act as one who has already arrived. The vibration of arrival attracts the circumstances of arrival. The secret of creation is psychological, not chronological. Do not wait for something to change in order to believe, and the world will change. When I taught Neville, he also thought about how and when. I told him, nothing comes from without. Everything comes from within. Time only serves those who doubt. To those who know, time bows. And this is what you must understand. The now is the point where all miracles are born. So, when you pronounce the mantra, do not look at the clock or the calendar. Close your eyes and feel the power of the instant. Say, "It is done now," with the certainty that the universe has already moved. And remain calm, like one who observes the ocean obeying the wind. Because in the instant your heart believes, time ceases to exist, and reality begins to bend before your conviction. The fourth principle is to see the invisible. The external world is merely the surface of a deep ocean, and one who lives only by what they see is condemned to repeat what already exists. The true creator does not look at appearances, they look through them. To see the invisible is an act of conscious faith. It is to perceive with the eyes of imagination that which does not yet have form. And when that vision is sustained with feeling, the invisible becomes inevitable. Most people only believe after they see, but the awakened person sees before they believe. They understand that the inner vision is the mold of manifestation. Everything that exists in the visible world was first an image in someone's mind. A bridge, a house, a healing, a fortune. Everything began as an invisible picture held with certainty. That is how creation occurs. First in the mind, then in matter. When you close your eyes and imagine the fulfilled result, you are not dreaming in vain. You are sowing in the divine field of consciousness. It is there in the invisible that the new reality comes to life. And when the feeling becomes so real that the body reacts, the heart quickens, the breath changes, the eyes fill with emotion, in that instant, creation is complete. The physical world will merely follow the trace of that vibration, but seeing the invisible requires courage. It requires ignoring what the senses scream. It requires you to look at scarcity and see abundance, to look at illness and see health, to look at emptiness and see fullness. That is why few manifest, because they still believe more in what they see than in what they feel. The Creator reverses this logic. They feel first, see later. When you use the mantra, close your eyes and see. See life responding to your new identity. See people treating you according to the new state. See doors opening, money arriving, peace reigning. Do not just imagine it as a distant scene, but live as if it is happening now. Walk through this mental scenery with the naturalness of one who already belongs to it. And above all, do not doubt. Doubt destroys the image, like wind extinguishing a flame. Every time the mind tries to remind you of reality, reaffirm within yourself, what is real is what I feel now. The invisible is the raw material of the visible. When you sustain the inner vision, the world has no choice. It reorganizes itself to reflect what you have decided to see, because life is not what happens before your eyes, but what you insist on seeing with your heart. The fifth principle is to repeat the mantra until the mind yields. Initially, the mind will resist. It will laugh at you, call you foolish, try to convince you that nothing has changed. It will do everything to keep you trapped in the old state, because it has been trained for years to believe in what the eyes see. But it is precisely there that true power is born, in the silent persistence of one who refuses to doubt. Every repetition is a blow to the wall of disbelief. Every time you say it is done now with feeling, a part of the old self dissolves, and the new state begins to take shape. The rational mind needs proof, but creative consciousness does not. The universe does not react to logic, it reacts to certainty. When you repeat the mantra, you are reprogramming the heart to believe in what reason does not yet understand. It is like teaching your soul a new language, the language of possession. And when it learns, the entire world begins to speak that same language. Therefore, do not stop at the first resistance. Continue even when nothing seems to happen. The invisible moves in silence, and faith is the only sound it recognizes. 10 seconds of total surrender, repeated with conviction, can change the course of an entire life. The secret lies in constancy, not in fleeting intensity. Power accumulates with each repetition. Like drops that falling on the same spot carve a path through the hardest rock. Repeat the mantra as one who affirms an eternal truth, not as one who tries to create something new. The creation is already complete. You merely call it into manifestation. And the more you repeat it, the more natural it becomes within you. Until at a certain point, something changes without warning. You realize that you are no longer trying to believe. You simply know. And when that knowing awakens, manifestation is instantaneous. Say the mantra with reverence, not as a ritual, but as an act of remembrance. Every time you pronounce "it is done now," you are affirming that the power of God acts in you, as you, and through you. Say it until you feel peace, until the body relaxes, until thought quiets, because in that inner silence the universe begins to move. So, persist. Even if the mind screams, continue. Even if the senses deny, continue. Even if the world says, "Not yet," continue. Because in the instant your heart believes completely, matter will have no other choice but to obey. And in that sacred moment, you will understand that you never needed to achieve anything, only to remember that everything was already done. Now you understand, nothing in the world happens from outside in. Everything is a reflection of the state you choose to sustain within yourself. Life is the mirror of your belief, and the universe is the faithful servant of your conviction. The mantra is not a magic formula. It is the reminder of your divine inheritance. When you say "it is done now," you are not trying to create the impossible. You are simply returning home, to the place where everything already exists. You were not created to beg for blessings, but to command them. You were not placed in this world to wait for something to change, but to decree change through consciousness. Every time you ask, you confess absence. But when you declare, you recognize possession. The Creator within you awakens the instant you stop imploring and begin to affirm. And it is this remembrance, silent, firm, and alive, that reorders the heavens and the earth in your favor. The visible world is slow, but the invisible is immediate. The moment the feeling changes, the vibration shifts and reality begins to adjust. You may not see it in the same second, but the transformation has already begun. And if you remain faithful to the new state, the old one dissolves due to lack of attention. Such is the law. Such it has always been. So from today, abandon waiting. Do not say, "One day it will happen." Say, "It is done now." And remain firm in that consciousness, even when the exterior does not yet reflect it. Time is merely the slow mirror of faith. The universe has no choice before one who knows. And when the old world tries to pull you back, close your eyes and return to the inner throne. Breathe, declare, and feel. Say, with calmness and authority, "It is done now." Because when that phrase becomes true within you, the impossible bends. Everything opens, everything adjusts. And you finally understand that there is no distance between what you imagine and what you live. There is only the intensity with which you believe. Assume, therefore, the state of fulfillment, of live as one who already possesses, speak as one who has already received, feel as one who has already won. Because one who knows that everything is already done does not wait for miracles, they command them. And the universe silently obeys.